I want to thank you all for coming and hanging out with me in this half hour-ish. I'm told that we can go up to 3:45, and I personally find that for me as the presenter, one of the most enjoyable parts of any presentation is the Q&A. So I want to be sure to leave enough time for that. So just very quickly, who the heck are you? I've been working online literally since the last century. And believe it or not, my first job out of school was in higher ed. Back in the late 90s, I ran systems and distance learning for Tulane's Department of Health Systems Management. Since then, our teams have worked with thousands of clients to drive traffic and enrollment through search and online ads. And from the start, we've believed that none of it really mattered if we didn't have the data to prove it was working. Lately, my focus or passion or obsession or whatever you like has been on AI SEO, how AI is reshaping search and visibility. And I recently taught the second iteration of a 6-hour AI SEO masterclass for SMX, Search Marketing Expo. They insist on calling it GEO, which I really can't get behind for a number of reasons. But it's just kind of amazing to see how fast this space is moving. And I hope that you all will, join me in my enthusiasm for it by the end of this presentation. So our company, Search Influence, has been around for 20 years. We're 30-something people. We focus on, higher ed, healthcare, and hospitality, lots of awards, that kind of thing. Also, if you're going to be out at live conferences in the next little bit, my colleague Paula is going to be at AMA Higher Ed. And then in the beginning of December, a few of us are going to be at and speaking at 𝗹PSIA's MEMS conference. Speaking of 𝗹PSIA, we have done a number of research studies with 𝗹PSIA, the most recent of which is about this very thing, which is AI search in higher ed. So we sponsored and 𝗹PSIA, who are the real data people, surveyed. I think our final number was somewhere over 700 adult learners who had an interest in continuing professional education, and the data from that is really interesting. So hopefully you can go download it, check it out, and get some joy from that. So I want to talk a little bit about, my journey with AI. And I know exactly what day it started because I was on an airplane. I was flying out to Colorado to go skiing with my older child who was in school out there. And I was engaged in, my long flight guilty pleasure, which is, watching trashy action movies. And so I'm watching, Fast and Furious 437 or whatever, with my laptop open, working. And I'd heard somewhere that The Rock and Vin Diesel had some conflict while they were shooting this movie. And I'd also just signed up for ChatGPT. And so I asked ChatGPT, what was the beef with Vin Diesel and The Rock? And I got an amazingly informative answer, and I was totally hooked. And then just because, I wanted to know, I went to Google and I asked the same question, and I got 10 blue links and a job to do. And that's when I knew that search would never be the same, right? And that I got this really compelling answer directly to my question that gave me all the information I needed, and Google just failed me so badly. So if you're not already working on how you're going to transform your work and perhaps even life with AI, I might be a little bit worried about you. At the rate it's going, AI is going to be in everything. So just a few interesting stats. The top one, the 800 million weekly users on ChatGPT. The reason this is so interesting is because not maybe 14 months ago, there were only half this many. And then the number of companies that are using or exploring AI is just exploding. And then finally, from our perspective as marketers, we're trying to get people to our websites to get them to hopefully, fill out an RFI form and, come put their butt in our seat or online seat, as it were. Sites are seeing as much as a 60% loss in traffic because of AI overviews and the presence of AI in their new kind of search journey. So AI isn't just changing marketing tactics, it's rewriting the entire client journey, the entire student journey. And I think the faster we get in there and adapt and automate, and teach the machines to imitate us, the longer we'll stay ahead. So to kind of quantify what is AI search, it's all of these tools and more. I talk about ChatGPT, and I have come to understand that I am in fact an abnormal user. I go and I talk to other people, what I like to think of as normies out in the population, and I say, "Hey, are you using ChatGPT?" And they look at me and they go, "Huh?" And I actually do that because I live in South Louisiana, and that's the way people speak. But then I ask them if they've seen any kind of difference in Google, and I get that same response. I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's only those of us who are so impacted by this that realize this is a very different user experience, this AI overview, and now coming soon worldwide, AI mode. So there's different ideas, there's different kind of instances of what this really looks like, right? There's the LLM, which is the big what one of my friends likes to call a spicy autocomplete, right? Where it has this big database of information and it uses predictive math to come up with what the next word ought to be. And then there's retrieval augmented generation, which is what AI overviews, and when you use ChatGPT with search, that's what that is. And the biggest difference is that you are the LLM is kind of dumb, and you'll recall back in the day we talked all about the hallucinations about smearing peanut butter on your skin knee and that kind of thing. But the big reason that retrieval augmented generation exists is to ground the data from the LLM in some kind of objective reality, which today is search. So you know what the surfaces look like, right? What the answers look like from these various engines, and just for your knowledge, the three most commonly used are Google and their AI overviews, obviously, but then ChatGPT, and then kind of bringing up the rear, and it's probably 4-to-1 ChatGPT versus is Perplexity. So we still have to care about traditional SEO and the way that we have addressed website content and search engines all along, because the vast majority of those results that show up in the AI overview track to the top 10 results from Google search. And just this is a big point of discussion among my digital marketing peers over the last several weeks. But Google made a decision to make it so that you could no longer request 100 results, right? You used to be able to add question mark num equals 100, and as a funny byproduct of that, a lot of results from Reddit fell out of the AI overviews because most of them were not in the top 10 organic results. They only showed up in those AI overviews. So in practice, what does this look like? Here's an example of the organic rankings for the keyword medical billing and coding degree. And you can see that in that result set, we have LSU Online and we have Ultimate Medical Academy. Well, in the AI overview, those two are two of the top three results in the citations for that AI overview. So there is a definite correlation. There's definitely a need to still consider the impact of organic search. And so what I like to tell people is, a lot of what we've been doing is still going to be effective. And if you've been doing good SEO, you should still be able to win in AI. And I also like to point out, because I'm a bit of an antagonist. I also like to point out that this whole AI thing isn't new. Uh, Google published an article in 2012 called "From Strings to Things," in which they launched their knowledge graph. Schema.org, which is one of the ways that we organize information under the covers, it launched in 2014, right? So a lot of these techniques and tactics should have been part of your toolkit all along, but now they're just becoming much more critical. And then finally, the Tim Berners-Lee, the godfather of the modern internet, published an article in the year 2000 called "The Semantic Web," which really kind of presaged a lot of what we're seeing in this AI search. So what about the future of AI and SEO? This is my friend Mike. Mike's way cooler than me. And he says the future of search is agentic. And so what does that mean? It means that in the not too distant future, Much of the work of finding things online will be done by AI systems. We won't necessarily even have to prompt per se or query. We'll just say, I need this thing, and the AI system will go out and it'll find it for us. And, that's going to be a really interesting time when we get to that, right? When it's just the machine. Oh, sorry, that's not what I really want to show you. This is what I really want to show you. It's a great example. And this is like a year and a half old, this example. Come on.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
I'm calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
Hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber link mode for more efficient communication?
Okay, that's enough of that. But really, the when you think about it, the machines are likely going to be talking to one another on our behalf, and so it becomes that much more important to make sure that we're the answer when the question is about something that we want to provide. So the first step in your strategy should be to understand how the foundational concepts of SEO translate to AI SEO, right? So we used to talk about keywords, that's now become entities. So instead of matching keywords, these strings of text, we're looking for clearly defined things, people, places, programs, ideas. It's built on knowledge graphs, which means it understands relationships and context. And it's not just doing this lexical analysis to say, is this like that, and does it appear frequently enough? There's a shift from context to clarity. You want your content to speak to one core concept and include just enough supporting language to make your concept unmistakably clear. One of my colleagues refers to an idea that he calls monosemanticity, and he's an Italian who lives in Spain, so it sounds really cool when he says this. Um, Links don't matter nearly as much as citations. In the old days, it was a popularity contest, right? It was like how many people linked to you, kind of like academic citations in research papers. But the now it's about how frequently are you cited as a brand, and then how frequently is your brand cited in association with the things that matter to you as a brand. And then finally the the context is really important. So the goal isn't to game the model, it's to make your meaning unmistakable. You want AI to recognize exactly what your page represents and connect it to related trusted entities. So you might be wondering if AI overviews are taking up so much real estate, does it really matter, right? We looked at this example a minute ago. And then what does it mean to be an entity? So AI understands your brand through its knowledge graph, the web of connections. For Tufts University College, for example, the brand sits at the center of a network that includes people, instructors, programs, leaders, alumni, locations, their Medford campus or online programs, products, pre-college, professional certificates, OSHA lifelong learning, and topics, expertise for which Tufts is known, healthcare management, sustainability, data analytics. When optimizing for AI search, you got to focus first on reinforcing the product and topic entities, and then the people, places, and services. So you give context and credibility, helping AI connect the dots and fully understand your brand. So moving from the big picture to the practical, what you can actually do on your university site to improve AI visibility. The Start with content, right? You want to go beyond keywords. You want to think entities, the things your content is about. If you want to know what an entity is, go look at Wikipedia or Wikidata. If it's listed there, it's an entity. Be specific and direct. Write like you're answering a question. The machines are kind of dumb, right? They don't get nuance. You got to be very declarative in the way that you talk about what you do. Um, you've got to chunk your content. You've got to think about like what is the this is a technical requirement more than anything else. The way that the AI information retrieval systems work is they look at blocks of text to understand the meaning, and those blocks, those chunks are like 170 to 200 characters. Um, those of us who have been doing web design forever uh, understand the value of hierarchy in the pages, and those are also really useful in helping the AI machines and Google before it for for the last 20 years to get what's most important. And then finally, you want to continue to build authority. So for instance, when you reference a field or a concept, link to canonical sources. When you mention an instructor or a thought leader, link to their CV or LinkedIn. These are the signals AI uses to validate who you are and what you know. So going a little deeper on writing style, you want to write in clear fact-based statements, subject, predicate, object. This structure is called a semantic triple, and it's really, this, something, that, right? So Steve Jobs co-founded Apple, or, in the Tufts example, Tufts University College offers pre-college and lifelong learning programs. And that semantic triple is really important because it associates your brand with the thing that you want to be known for. And so just like hold on to that thought because we're going to come back to it in a minute. So this is what it looks like in practice, right? On the left, we've got a typical university paragraph, long, dense, a little bit fuzzy. And on the right, we rewrote it with structure and precision. The goal isn't to sound mechanical, it's to make your content easier for both humans and AI to understand. Because if you don't say it, the AI is not going to know it, right? So you got to put it out there. Another thing that is interesting is for a while at the dawn of SEO, we were really abusing anchor text links to try to send signals about what the page that we were linking to is about. Well, now they need to be entity rich. So we went back, we went from really isolated anchor text to these kind of more amorphous link texts, and now we're back to needing that clarity in content for AI. Something else we've been thinking a lot about is schema. So I said the knowledge graph was launched in 2012. Schema.org was launched in 2014, right? So it's been around for a long time, but I think we've been thinking about it a little bit too simplistically. Up to this point, we've been thinking about it for things like review stars and recipe cards, and if we're a little bit more advanced, events and how we can describe those in a way that the machines understand. But you can also use it to demonstrate that you are associated with other things. So for instance, you can have same as schema, which says my brand, which I'm describing in my organization schema, is the same as all of these social channels that are kind of primary sources for the AI. And by making those associations in schema, I mean, hopefully it's a reminder to make them in the text of the page as well. But in a world where retrieval augmented generation is really what AI search is about, it becomes that much more important that you make those associations. So how do we build authority in this new environment of AI when links are no longer the thing? AI recognizes your credibility through relationships, right? Between brands, entities, and content. And so there are multiple benefits for building your presence on other websites. The first is a classic SEO technique of links, right? So even the AI bots have crawlers, and the way that they find stuff is by crawling around the web and collecting it. Another benefit is citations. So this is where you are building your reputation through association with a brand that's already known and recognized by the by the AI engines. And then finally is something that this is a phrase, it's my one claim to fame at SEO. I'm sad about that. But back in like 2008, I coined this phrase barnacle SEO. And the idea was we were talking at that time about directories in a local search context. And the fact that by claiming your listing and optimizing them on directories, you could potentially outrank bigger sites by amplifying the value of those directories. So there's not really any bad reasons to build your presence on other websites. When you think about it, like going back to that semantic triple idea, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can either think about co-citation or co-occurrence, right? So for example, Tulane's School of Professional Advancement is mentioned in association with the American Bar Association. It strengthens Tulane's brand in relationship to legal topics, right? Or if you've got a newer program and it's listed alongside established programs on a top 10 list, that's a great way to get your brand to be associated with this kind of bigger corpus of knowledge within the knowledge graph. So today, co-citation and co-occurrence strengthen how AI understands who you're connected to and what you're known for. And so the question is, how do you, in an authentic, non-spammy way, create those signals? In our first example, we have a LinkedIn article about HR skills that are supporting an HR Management Essentials course. We then published a LinkedIn post that links to that article, and the article links to the website program page. So we are now taking that same concept, right, which is school and HR certificate, and we've now got it not only on the school site, but we've got it in a couple of other places. And then we're creating, then we're creating other instances of this. And if you look at the results set in Perplexity, you can see that a lot of those are citations for our organization. And the thing that, oftentimes when we talk about particularly Google AI overviews, there's a concern of how can I possibly own all of those citation slots? Well, you're not going to with your own website, but when you have the opportunity to publish content on other people's websites, you may be able to get more bites at the apple. So in this example, we published a really well-optimized blog post about best careers for remote work on the client's website, then published a derivative LinkedIn article, YouTube video, and a LinkedIn carousel post that summarized the points in the blog. The goal here was to create variations of the same message in multiple formats and on multiple channels that all support topical authority through co-occurrence and links back to deep program pages. The thing that, and I this is a, I think a lot of people are really uncomfortable with the idea that AI is this brand new thing and that they're going to have to learn a whole new set of skills. But I would ask, how many of us aren't already creating LinkedIn articles or YouTube videos or LinkedIn carousel posts or the like? The only difference now is that we want to be thinking about how they support the concept, the semantic triple of our school provides this set of coursework, right? Those are the things that we just need to be repetitive about in the same way that we used to feel like we needed to be repetitive about name, address, and phone number in a local context so that the engines would get the point. So, you take that tightly knit topical authority strategy, and we start to see the original blog post showing up as a source in different AI engines, which would indicate that that the tactic works. And another thing to consider is that the engines, the different engines bias toward different outlets, right? I think we've all heard about how everybody loves Reddit. Well, not everybody loves Reddit, but there's a high likelihood that if you're present in, and Wikipedia is really hard, I get that. But if you're present in Wikipedia and you're present in Reddit and you're present in YouTube and whatever are appropriate to your geography and your particular category or set of programs, these are knowable things. You can study what's showing up in AI search, and you can do your best to try to show up there alongside it. So some of the ways that you can get in front of some of this stuff, there are other hint. The AI engines don't really understand the difference between paid and organic. So if you find yourself on a top 10 list by virtue of the fact that you were willing to pay among the top 10 folks, then that is going to get you into the training data. I did my personal blog, not the search influence blog, is 𝗻𝗏scott.me. Oh, and by the way, these slides are available if you go to 𝗻𝗏scott.me/links. They and a whole bunch of presentations that I've done recently are there, along with a couple of articles. I'm not as good about updating it as I should be, but on 𝗻𝗏scott.me, I publish stuff that doesn't really belong on the search influence site. And one of the pieces that I did is I have these like long, deep kind of meaningful conversations with Claude. And I started from the premise of I wanted to understand through Claude's deep research facility with what publishers each of the engines had licensing deals for content. And the reason that was interesting to me was because I felt like if we know who the publishers are, then we can probably find a way to get into those publishers as the training data for AI. Pretty cool, right? Well, it turns out there's a function of advertising called native advertising, which is where you can effectively buy an advertorial and it looks pretty much like organic content. Well, a couple of those providers have direct deals with OpenAI and and Perplexity. So, buy an article using Nativo, for instance, and maybe you find yourself in the answers set. So, online directories, sponsored content, media mentions, the I think, hey, any of you that come from the PR and corporate comms world or university comms world, this is your heyday, right? Because everybody's talking about how we really need real press in order to show up in AI, and so now's your opportunity. One of the biggest questions we get is about tracking. Like, how do you actually know when you're being seen or cited in AI search? And I think it's a good question, and the whole industry is still figuring it out. Um, and one thing that I will say about analytics in general, whether it's Google Analytics or whether it's one of these new tools, is they are all wrong, right? It's just by a matter of degree, which are more wrong than others, and more importantly, which give you directional information from which you can make decisions to hopefully make better content and improve your standing in all of the areas. So we've been doing a lot of R&D in this, and I think I mentioned I did that masterclass, so I had an opportunity to look at dozens of these tools. And people are still reaching out to me daily and saying like, hey, you want to check out our new thing? So there must be probably 3 dozen or more AI tracking tools. But you can start with what you already have with Google Analytics, which I think a lot of people have. And if you don't, maybe you've got Adobe's product that's along these lines. But in any of them, you can track referral data. And so you can see what sites are driving traffic to my site, and you can tell if it's coming from one of these engines. And as importantly, I think, is what pages are they landing on. So you can study your own website. You can say, why is this page winning and other pages are not? And maybe deconstruct the win and try to take those learnings back to other pages on your site. The other thing that's really interesting is anecdotally, we're seeing a much higher engagement rate from AI engines. So what people surmise that's telling us is that the top of funnel has been managed by the AI engines, right? And it's the bottom of funnel that's being done on your site. So somebody arrives at your site, they're already engaged, they're ready to learn more, and it's really helpful. And there are a ton of AI tracking tools. We at Search Influence settled on a tool called Scrunch because they were the first one to have all of the features that we needed. Specifically, we built really robust funnel tracking dashboards for our clients. And so we wanted one that would plug directly into our tool of choice, Google's Looker Studio, to get that information. So that plus some of the other features made them the winner. But they've added a new feature, which I find really cool. And maybe it's just because I'm a little bit techie, but you can see not just what traffic is coming to your site, but also which of the robots are crawling your site, which again, same information as you get from the referral, but it's just a lot more data, right? You might get 150 visitors, but you're going to get 1,500 crawls from that same engine. So if you've got Google Search Console, you can see some interesting stuff in there too. We know that the engines tend to think in questions. And so we came up with this regular expression that you can plug in to Google Search Console, and you can see what questions are already being asked of your content. And it maybe gives you a little bit of a head start on what AI might be delivering as well. So, to bring it all together, I advise that you try everything, right? Go crazy with it. So I just want to, you don't know this, but I own that t-shirt, and the t-shirt is represented perfectly. As you can see, I myself, not quite as much. But this is a race. We're early in it. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. So, start by doing the simple stuff. Google yourself. Put prompts out there that are consistent with your brand. Um, look really closely at Google's people also ask, because those are usually in the form of a question, and the reason that Google puts those out there is because they learned over time what the questions were that really mattered. Work with your PR team to distribute press releases and earn media coverage. We are seeing PR sites actually show up as citations. So it's a very easy approach. Okay, so we have only a few more minutes before the 𝗲𝗿𝗿𝗀𝗿 comes and drags me off the stage, and I would love to answer any questions that you all have. Or, as I was talking about earlier, I just whistle the theme from Jeopardy. No questions. Would anyone like to drop a URL to one of their pages in there and let me deconstruct your site? I promise I won't make you cry much. Oh, well, there you go. Thank you, Judith. Okay, so let's get a screen I can share. online.stanford.edu. Oh, that's fun. Look, check that out. Look what Google wants me to think, that you offer free courses. Maybe you do. So here's the question. Am I telling the story? Am I telling the story that the AI machines need to hear in order to give me the love? A good place to start, I always find, is with the title tag, right? So let's get that out of the way so you can all see the title tag. Hopefully you can see this when I hover over it. Learning for a lifetime. Here, learning for a lifetime, Stanford Online. That's the apparent title tag, which is okay. It's a little bit abstract. It's a tagline, not a like direction. But let's actually look at the page. Here, I'm gonna pull up one of my favorite tools. Give me a little thumbs up if y'all can actually see this extension when it pops up. Okay. So headings. Let's look at the headings. Can somebody okay, super. Thank you so much. So the H1 is Stanford Online and then Learning for a Lifetime. This is a CMS problem, right? There shouldn't be two H1s. There should be a single H1 and it should be telling the most important story on the page. Because Stanford Online offers, let's see what the machines think. Let's go ChatGPT just because we're there. Oh, my bad. And we'll see what ChatGPT thinks. Now, it's going to have a lot of additional context, right? But if from looking at it, if there wasn't a lot of that additional context, we have graduate education, professional education, enterprise education, and free online courses. So it looks like that. I sort of typed this in a minute ago, and it offered me free as an option. And then we have Stanford content, Stanford faculty, Stanford credentials. That's probably pretty good because Stanford is a known entity. But what I really want to know next is this, right? deep learning for computer vision. These are great little panels as long as they are rendered by the crawlers, because they are things that are understandable, right? Product development is understandable. I bet you that's an entity. Deep learning for computer vision, similarly, is probably an entity that is meaningful. So let's see what ChatGPT says. Looks like I was able to open that link directly. That's a bummer. Let me see if it's because I screwed up the URL. That's interesting, right? What's this one? So this is interesting, right? I get Stanford Libraries is one of the big references that that ChatGPT gives me. Okay, so now we're going to do something else. We're going to say render as Markdown. Markdown is the language of AI. So if ever you want to know how AI sees the world, come on. So graduate programs, right? AI graduate program, product management. Yep. So this is really interesting to me because I would think that AI would be able to understand what was on this page. And so I want to know why. Like my next question is, why is it not able to do that for me? So let's try Claude. And Claude may do it for me. Claude, so they have there are different the different engines have different benefits. Uh, Claude is my coding partner, and ChatGPT is my therapist. So if you want to do something really technical, go to Claude. So Judith, I have bad news. It looks like it looks like y'all are doing something that makes it hard for AI to read that page. Yeah. Because because oftentimes like that's my, I can look at it visually and I can say, does the structure look right? Am I using words that feel like they're entities that relate to my programs, or the school itself? And then this is where the rubber meets the road. So thank you for volunteering a URL. This is, the great news is there's good content on that page. There's great content on other pages, and this is eminently fixable. Okay, we have 5 minutes until the absolute end of this session, and I'm happy to answer another question or you know, hear which celebrity you think my voice is most like. I recently heard from somebody, uh, Frasier's brother, Niles, in the show Frasier, which I found interesting. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch any Frasier episodes to see if I believe that. I've always said if this doesn't work out for me, I might become a late night jazz host, which is totally doable for me because I live in New Orleans and that's something that we have lots of access to. So hopefully you all found this valuable. Hopefully you all go check out the slides at willscott.me/links, other stuff there. I'm happy to connect. If you there are a shocking number of Will Scotts in the world. So if you wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn, I highly recommend that you instead Google Will Scott SEO, because that actually gets directly to me. Funny story, I was doing another presentation and I sent out a link to my LinkedIn profile, but I had ChatGPT QA me, and it sent out the link to a different Will Scott. And I was like, oh, that really sucks. But I made a new friend, my new buddy, Will Scott in the UK. So again, thank you all. Have a great rest of your conference. And please feel free to use me as a resource.